Well, we found an interesting thing when we were creating our logic model, and we found out that having a data person there allowed us to assign data to each of the activities, and that's a key thing for being able to have success with a logic model and proving that the logic model is success. As we define the logic model, the data came out, and the data people were able to say, where will we get that? How can we get that? How are we going to convert the data we have into information? So having the data as part of a logic model was a very good thing. If the logic model is used as it's meant to be used, it's a living document. It will change, it will allow you to see the benefits of things you're doing and the costs of things you were doing. And to be committed to the logic model over a long haul, you will be committing time, systems and resources, and hopefully funding will be committed at all levels to allow tribes to do that.
I think the connection with the tribal TANF programs and the logic model with data collection, it has to be intertwined with culture and the cultural values of the tribe. For example, in the Athabascan culture, self-sufficiency and hard work are part of our values, and as well as respect and care and provision for the family. It had to be in order for people to survive in the harsh climates and the remote areas that they live in. Right now, there's very high costs associated with everything pertaining to the tribes in the Tanana Chiefs region. People live in very vast remote locations, and the cost of travel is really high, unemployment is high. In order for us to help and provide services in the manner that is best from our grantees, and also for the grantors, and also for the people that we serve, we have to take all of that in consideration, and that is part of the logic model as well. And we kind of integrate that in our outcomes, in our long, short, and medium outcomes. Native people have their own way to be respectful to one another, and I know that with Tanana Chiefs and the people that work for Tanana Chiefs and work for the tribes have to actually have that as their number one priority, even to the mannerisms in which you ask a question. Ultimately, we have to serve with the highest regard to respect.
From a cultural perspective, even Tanana Chiefs Conference does not own the data. Our tribes own the data. That is their data, and at times if they say it's not available for us to turn into information, we do not do it because it is their data. At other times, we have other outside sources collect and store data, and they will not allow us to have that data. Sometimes looking at the data from an outside source's perspective does not give us the picture that we need, so we need to retain ownership of the data so that we can look at it in the way that's more relevant to our tribes and to our tribal leaders and to our elders and to our stakeholders. At the same time, we need to understand if we are allowed and given the right to be the possessor of the data for our tribes, we also take on the responsibility to take that data, to convert it not just to information, but to useful information to give back to our tribal members so they can evaluate us, so we can evaluate ourselves, and we can give it back to them in a culturally sensitive way. Many times we can give them data, information back and say, for all of Tanana Chiefs, here is how many cases we have, but that's not relevant to the owners of the data, our tribes. They want to know how many tribal members from their tribe do we have, and we have to be willing and able to provide them to it in a culturally relevant perspective.
Like I said, I think that it depends on the area and the tribe itself. For us, we just look at who we are, what village we're talking with, who we are talking with, whether we're talking with a chief or we're talking to the tribal administrator. I think that tribes that are looking into collecting data just have to know, well, number one, what data do you want and why? do you want it? And the tribal TANF has opportunity to implement questions in with the services, and so that they, and do it in a way that you are beforehand, you know what data that you want to collect, and you can easily get that information from the clients that you serve.
This podcast was brought to you on behalf of the Welfare Peer Technical Assistance Network, the Office of Family Assistance, the Administration for Children and Families, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.